Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 578. This is being broadcasted live on YouTube, which is youtube.com/Joseph Clough. CLOUGH. So, in this episode, this is being broadcasted on a Friday. On Fridays, we do more of a chill out, but I did want to deliver some content which will really help you reduce worries, anxieties, and ultimately getting things done. Because I think that is something, and especially as we get back to maybe getting back into work, for many people, like getting back into their job, their career, their colleagues, and so on, it can be a bit of a daunting time. It can be a little bit anxious. It can be a little bit worrying. A little bit self-doubt maybe. So I wanted to be able to get the conscious mind stuff done on this one, and maybe next week we'll do a hypnosis session around it, or maybe we'll do one later for those in the stream, but then we'll put it out later. It's the benefits of showing up live, by the way. But yeah, anxiety, worries, and doubts really get in the mind, and it actually self-sabotages ourselves. We self-sabotage our experience. We think about the things we have to get done and go, oh my goodness, there is so much. Because we may, just as a side note, we may be having a low self-esteem sometimes anyway, right? I mean, it's a competitive world. We might feel like an imposter. We might have that inner critic, the little nagging voice going, can you really do this? Do you have enough time? Are you really able? Are you capable? You're not good enough for this, are you? So that little nagging voice in our mind can really get in our way, and therefore we get more anxious. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy almost. The anxiety creates more worries and doubts, and the worrying doubts creates more anxiety. So I thought it'd be a perfect opportunity of how I let go of anxiety, or how I get things done. And it's pretty simple. Like, if you know me, I try to break things simplistically. And it's something that I do all the time. And I'm not an anxious person. I've had a lot of life stuff happen, which I thought could trigger more anxiety, but it didn't, because I had the tools to be able to deal with it. Yeah, it's still hard and it's a challenge, but if we can let go of the unwarranted and inappropriate anxiety, then we may as well just go ahead and do that. So we can be more assertive, more self-certain. So there's a couple of things we can discuss about this. Now, the first thing that I like to really think about when it comes to anxiety. Anxiety is because it's in your mind, it's in your head, and we're deleting, we're distorting, we're generalizing our experience to the point that we cannot think straight. So one of the things that I do, and this is very much a kinesthetic thing, you go ahead, you get your pen, and you write down the things which need to be done. Now, in the beginning, that may be an anxious task, because it's like a shopping list of all the things that you have to do. But really understand this. If it's in your mind, it's going to be even more confusing. When you get it out on paper, part of it is leaving your mind, and therefore we're not going to be deleting, distorting, or generalizing our experience when it comes to getting things done. So you write everything down, and then we have two options. Well, number one, actually, before we get there, we figure out what's the most important thing that we need to get done. Okay, all the way from the highest priority to the least priority. Okay, so now we've got it all out on paper, and now we've got a hierarchy of all the things that we gotta do. Now, this could create a conflict. I mean, the conflict's still gonna be there, but sometimes when you think of the most important thing you gotta get done, that might be, oh my goodness, that is so overwhelming. Like, it feels so far away from me that I just cannot have the bandwidth to deal with it. So there's a couple of things we can do with that. We can either attempt to let go or like work on that big thing to just like lift the weight off our mind. Like if we let go of the biggest thing getting in our way and just get it out, get it done, it's gonna make us feel a lot better. Because now let's just say that big one was like 30, 40, 50% of our mental energy. Once we get that done, now we're free of that 30, 40, 50%. But the disclaimer here is, if that overwhelming, if that 30, 40, 50% is so overwhelming that you self-sabotage yourself, that when you think about it, it makes you want to stay in bed. When you think about it, you procrastinate, you watch TV, or you eat, you drink, whatever it may be, then the cheat code to this is to get rid of the smallest ones as quickly as possible. Why? Because it gives you quick wins. Okay, it gives you quick wins, which gives you momentum. Now suddenly, if you've got a list of 10 things and you don't want to do the number one thing because it takes 40, 50% of your bandwidth, and you're like, oh my goodness, I cannot do that. We then go, okay, I'm gonna let go of 10, 9, 8, 7 real quick within the next hour or the next day. And then suddenly, those wins actually give you more self-belief. It gives you more self-certainty. And it actually starts to let go of the anxiety, worries, and doubts. So that self-belief, because those bottom 3 ones could be even like 5% each, well, now you've cleared out 15% of your bandwidth. We only have 100% concentration, right, or 100% capacity we can start to utilize. So if you let go of the big scale or the small scale, you're winning. You're getting things done. You are making changes. You are doing something about it. So you now have these 2 choices. For me, usually, I go for the big thing. That's just how my mind is. I want to be able to get it and attack it. But sometimes it is good to get the initial wins. Because now think about your mentality. Like, come with me on a journey for a moment. Would you? Come with a journey for a second. Let's just say we're starting on that list. You may be hallucinating it right now. You might be even writing out the things you've got to get done. Now notice how it feels to cross out that number 10 one, if there were a number 10, and then cross out the 9. Then cross out maybe the 6, because you think, now I'm going to go ahead a little bit bigger and better. Notice how you've kinesthetically struck through those bottom ones. How does it make you feel? Do you get a bit of an accomplishment? A bit of like, I'm doing something, I'm making things happen? Notice how your body would feel having done that. Do you feel a little bit more of a release, an energetic disconnect? You're like, wow, I'm doing stuff. Now, if we go further on that journey, because that's now giving you, if you look at number 5, you're probably like, that's mine. I'm getting that one. Number 5, you are gone. I'm ready to let that one go or get that one done. So the psychology of getting things done goes into those 2 categories, because they will both work depending on the person that you are. If that number 1, the highest priority, is getting in your way and it's causing you to feel overwhelmed, it's causing you to get worried, anxious, doubtful, procrastination, self-sabotage, forget about it for a moment. Hit number 10, hit number 9, hit number 8, hit number 7. Now suddenly when you go down, having let go of the smaller ones, that last one left, you're like, I'm a winner. I've made things happen. I got rid of the other 9, and I'm excited to get this last one off my back. You see, it builds a psychology of winning and certainty, and it causes you to feel better. Now, on the flip side of that journey, if we did attack the first one and we just let that go from the beginning, and we freed up that 30, 40, 50% of the bandwidth that we're focusing, which is like made up of the anxiety, worries, and doubts. When you think about just going, I've let it go, it's done. You now look down at the other list of a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you're like, I'm a rock star. I'm gonna get these ones done. I got the big one off my back, and now I'm ready to start moving forward. So there are the two options. We don't always have to attack the big one. We don't always have to go for the small one. But the benefit of this, by doing this strategy, it causes you to reduce anxiety. Now come with me for another journey. I want you to imagine in your mind as if you could float up above this present moment. And if you were to float up above this present moment and you look off out into the future, as if you're going way out, further and further, after, and this is very important, after the successful completion of that list. Okay? Imagine as if you're floating high above and further off into the future to the successful completion. That's very important too. Hallucinate in your mind how it feels to having successfully completed that list. Looking back to now, the present moment. How does it make you feel? Having gone above, beyond, looking back to the present, having achieved your successes in any endeavor, in any goal, or in any outcome. Notice how it feels having successfully completed and got things done. Where did the anxiety go? Where did the worry go? I bet it's disappeared. And if it's not, you haven't gone to the successful completion, because you cannot hold anxiety at the successful completion of any event. And if we're hallucinating in our mind, you're sending the signal to your unconscious mind, it doesn't need anxiety. So when I have any goal in my mind, let's say for example, I'm doing a training or I'm doing a seminar, like a weekend seminar, let's say that one, I run one called Be Your Potential. And if I think at the beginning of it, I'm like, oh my goodness, I've got to teach all this stuff, which I love, but there's not anxiety, but there's anticipation, right? So there's energy there. But then if I hallucinate by going to the successful completion of that event, and I see everyone smiling, they're free of all their stuff, and they're enjoying life, and I'm observing the successful completion of my events, I don't feel that energy. I have a trust and I have a knowing, and this is not tricking the mind, this is causing the mind to imagine what it's like to the successful completion. Why is this not tricking the mind? Well, this is almost like the reverse of anxiety. What does anxiety do? You think of the worst case scenario, the unsuccessful event, the completion of the unsuccessful event, but you're probably doing it in 100 different narratives, 100 different ways of all the things which could go wrong. We're just doing the opposite. So think about that. If you start to go throughout your day and imagine the successful completion, you have that list from the highest priority, or by highest priority, what I really mean there, to be very clear, it may not always be the biggest thing in terms of the result, but I'm talking about the capacity, the energy that you have attached to it. So if you have so much stress about this one thing, that will be your highest priority, right? Let's get that done and release that stress. So once you start to get this out on paper, from in a hierarchy of most energy spent to the least, you have the choice of going, do I attack the biggest one because it feels good to do it? But if for whatever reason, if you have worries and anxieties and it causes you to self-sabotage, attack the small ones. Get those done. Get those done, because then you're going to get those wins. You're going to get that success, and it's going to cause you to go, I'm ready. I'm going to take that big one on now. Because it builds traction. It builds motivation. And I think that's a great thing. And that's what I do. And on top of that, as I said, if I have anything, whether it be in a month's time, let's just say that you're fully booked out. Okay, you're fully booked out in your work. And there's a random example, like totally random example. You got all this work to do. When you think about it, it can be kind of daunting. But if you start to list things out and go, okay, I'm gonna attack this one first, although I know I've got to prepare for this one on the song, like just do the things that I can do to build momentum, or go for that big one. But then imagine going to, say, like it's like what, it's 11th of June now, so like the 26th of June or the end of the month or something like that, when you're fully booked out. Imagine going off out into the future to the end of that moment, looking back and going, I did it. And do you know what? I had fun. Like, you are setting yourself up for success. You're setting yourself up to hallucinate the successes that you want. And this is another reason why it's important. Your unconscious mind, I'm not going to say doesn't know, but it struggles with understanding with what is true and what is not true. And once again, we can go back to anxiety. Anxiety is illusionary. Fear is illusionary because it's our perception. It hasn't happened yet, so it's not real. But we imagine it in our mind of all the things which could happen, so we're hallucinating the future in the most negative consequence, and therefore gets anxious. It didn't even happen, yet the body feels anxious, right? So, when we start to hallucinate the successful outcome, the successful completion, your unconscious mind also does not know the difference too much either. So therefore, when you go there in your mind, you go there in your body. Now, do you want an experiment of this? Even for those listening to the podcast, if you want an experiment of how the mind and body is totally connected, this is what I want you to do. Okay, it helps if you can to stand up. Okay, just as a demonstration of the mind and body effects in one another. What I want you to go ahead and do, and for those benefits of those who are here on the live stream right now, you can actually see this a little bit more visually, although I'll be sitting down because my desk's not to the stand-up point at a moment. But here's what I want you to do at home. I want you to put both hands out in front of you, okay? Just straight out in front of you. And definitely do this, obviously when you're not driving or anything like that, operating machinery. But when you got a moment, just put your hands straight out in front of you with your eyes open, okay? Now, without stressing the body, because you know your body, what I want you to do is take those arms, keeping your feet to the floor. I want you to move those arms all the way to a point where you can kind of look at. So I'm looking at the camera right now, but you'll be like looking at the place as far as you can go without going like crazy, okay? I don't want you to twist the back or anything like that. Go to where you know you can go quite comfortably, okay? With your eyes open, hands out in front of you, and just move your arms all the way over. Now, ideally, they're gonna be right out in front of you, but like I said, I'm sitting down. And then when you've done that, allow both of those hands to go right back to the center. And in chat, if you let me know that you've done that, that'll be great as well. Well, another benefit of being alive, we can kind of monitor you as we go. But just make sure your eyes have been open, hands out in front, and you move them all the way. And then all the way back. Perfect. We did it. Now, once you've done that, and it only takes a second to do, Okay. Now I want you to close your eyes. Perfect. Everyone's saying done, done, done. Now close your eyes this time. Now without physically moving your hands, okay? Allow your hands to be on your lap. Without physically moving your hands or your body, just with your eyes closed, imagine, only imagine without physically doing anything, imagine those hands out in front of you. Now imagine them going in the same direction, all the way around to the place that you pointed to, but just with your imagination. But this time go maybe a foot further in your mind. And then imagine those hands going all the way back to the center again. Almost imagine those hands going back to your lap. Now with your eyes closed still, imagine those hands once again without moving out in front of you, and then going all the way round again, past that point, past that 1 foot point, and now you're going like 75% all the way round. Not 100% like 360, but like you're almost there just in your mind. Now imagine those hands just wrapping all the way around back to the same position in front of you, and then with your hands back on your lap again, just with your imagination. Now, let's do it again. Imagine those hands going out in front of you, and imagine them going all the way round, past the point that you first went to physically, past that foot, past the 75% round, all the way round as if they're imagining you're right back in front of you. You've done a total 360, just in your mind. Now imagine those hands going all the way back round at 360, all the way back in front of you, and then all the way down to your lap. So now you can open your eyes. So pretty easy, just imagined it however you did it. But let's test. Now physically, put your hands out in front of you and go ahead and spin round physically and notice how much further you go. Notice how much further you go. And in the chat, you can be my feedback monitor here. How much further did you go compared to the first time that you did this physically? So we got a laugh out loud right now. So I presume that was a lot further. How much further did we go? Kevin says much further. And I'm sure people listening to this on the podcast or the replay, you went much further as well. Okay. Now, what was the difference between the first time and the second time? Because why would it be much different? Like, yes, amazing, 25% further. Okay. So if we think about it, why is that the case? Well, the first time you did it, you went to where you thought you could go, right? That was just your base point. But then when you went in your mind, you broke through that barrier. You broke through the possibilities. And like beliefs, they're usually illusionary. And they're definitely, those limits and boundaries are made to go beyond that. So, when you went there in your mind, you broke through the barrier of what you thought you could do because we were having fun. We did a whole 360. And then when you did it physically, your body had a track, it had a sequence, it had a plan or an idea that you could go further than you could. See, that's, if we've closed this loop here, is why the unconscious mind thinks whatever you think is true. So when you go there in the mind, guess what? You go there in the body. So, let's bring it all the way back. We went to the successful completion, and therefore the anxiety would disappear. So the more you begin to hallucinate, the more you begin to positively imagine, the reverse the anxiety, you will be more successful. because you're pre-teaching your unconscious mind. In fact, I've let go of phobias by just getting people to do, like, within 5-10 minutes as well. I was actually invited on a TV show. It's actually on my YouTube channel way back. And it was on a channel called ITV, where if you're in England, you'll probably know that as one of the most popular channels, like BBC One, 2, ITV, and Channel 4. I don't know, I haven't been in England for a year or two. Is Channel 5 even in existence anymore? Who knows? But it was on ITV. And I was letting go of phobias, and that was one of the processes that I did. I created dissociation. I began to get them to positively hallucinate the opposite of what the thing they were fearful of, whether it be the snake that I was walking with, or the rat, there was a dog, there was a tarantula, all those things. And it was all about reconditioning the mind. So when you think of anxiety, if you've got a lot of things going on right now, yes, look after your body. Make sure you rejuvenate and be gentle upon yourself. But please make sure that you're writing out that list and just getting things done. Whether it be the biggest one off your back, or get those small ones off to give you more wins and more momentum and more self-belief and more self-certainty. And after all, always go there in the mind. Because once you go to the successful completion of the thing that you thought you were anxious of, and it's all about communication. If you just break down what I said there, the communication was past tense, there was future tense, there was successful completion, future tense, and also past tense of what you thought you used to be scared of or anxious of. So we can use language like we did through that demonstration, where it be going to the successful completion or moving your arms around, all those things. We can manipulate in a positive way. Look, masseuses manipulate the body. So it's not negative manipulation. This is the cultivation of your thoughts in your unconscious mind, so that we can begin to do things. Now, one of my good friends called Dr. David Hamilton, he's wrote a ton of books on like the mind and body connection. He doesn't really go specifically on the unconscious, more mind body, although it's the same thing, right? But there's real clinical studies of how people have an effect on the body. So check him out. He's an awesome, I've got books of his on my bookshelf here. Really awesome guy. And he was in the pharmaceutical trade. And then he was like doing these double-blind tests. It's like, well, this doesn't make sense when it came to the placebo or the nocebo. And it got him intrigued about how the mind-body communicates. Now, that's what I do, but he takes it down to the science, way beyond my thinking. But simplistically, that's what we're doing today. Reducing anxiety and getting things done. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Now, coming this August and also September, we're doing a live training, virtual training, so you can be certified to know this mind stuff, to start hypnotizing people, be certified hypnotist, NLP practitioner, coach, so you can actually start doing this in business. You can do this like helping people in your family, just understanding your mind, or you may want to actually become a practitioner. Okay, you might actually want to do this as a living. We teach you the business side as well, and that's NLPhypnosistrainings.com. NLPhypnosistrainings.com. And finally, if you want to go ahead and potentially join, and by potentially as an application only, to let go of the imposter syndrome, to let go of all the self-doubt, you can go to josephclough.info/power. josephclough.info/power. You got to watch your masterclass, see if it resonates with you, and then you may be able to apply. Okay, once you apply, you'll get on the phone. We'll see if we can figure out if we can solve it. If we can, we can. If we can't, we can't. We don't do miracles, but we can serve the right kind of person who's invested in the success, because it's fully customized, but that may be of value to you. But there's no pressure. I'm not big into selling. I don't need to. I just want the right people. So yes, NLPhypnosistrainings.com or josephclough.info/power. So once again, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you kind of got some value of just like playing around. When we do the live events, we do other things like that, and it like really blows our minds. I should really do another seminar soon. Now things are opening up. But anyway, that's just a random thought of mine. So I look forward to speaking to you in a future episode. So many thanks and goodbye.